Today guys, we're going to talk squat mechanics. So first thing that we're going to look at when we're looking at the squat would be, first thing to do, have a look at the foot. Okay, so when we look at the foot, ideally we're looking for a tripod foot. So what that means, I'm going to have pressure through the big toe as well as the outside of my foot, all the way down kind of through my heel. So I'm looking for kind of like a full whole foot as I'm setting up. When I look at that foot as well, I'm thinking about kind of like spreading the floor. So I'm looking to create tension kind of through that foot, through that stance, as I'm kind of pushing the floor out and away from me. And you kind of feel kind of the glutes come on when I do that. Second thing we're going to look at, now that we talked about the foot, is kind of like our stance. Okay, so we have a few different ways that we can kind of look at that. A good drill that I kind of like is potentially using a slide board or your tile floor with some socks on, and it's called like the rock and snap. So I'm just going to be kind of up on my toes, up on my heels, kind of a couple times, starting pretty neutral, and then basically at one point where I go back, I'm going to snap myself forward into position, big squeeze in my glutes, and that's going to probably orient myself based on a bit of my hip anatomy. Okay, so for me it's going to be toes slightly turned out there, so then that would be kind of where I'd look to kind of have that angle for when I'm going down into my squat position. If that's a bit too complicated for you, an easy way is just, I'm going to look at being maybe, shoulder width apart, toes slightly turned out, and that's maybe going to be a good position for me when I'm in my squat. But just remember that not everyone's squat stance or how much their toes are turned out are going to be the same, because depending on my hip anatomy, I might need to be a little bit more turned out. Somebody might need to be a little bit less turned out. Okay, so it's going to be a bit individualized there. And remember that stance may change a little bit depending on what that squat is that I'm doing, where that load is that I'm doing. So obviously, like I could be a bit kind of wider stance if I'm box squatting compared to maybe a little bit more narrow if I'm goblet squatting. Next, we're going to look at bracing. So again, when we look at bracing the core, it's kind of, we have that breath in, that's kind of that diaphragmatic breath. I'm looking to create tension out. So an easy way is I take my hands, go on top of my hip bone, kind of pushing in on my abdomen a bit, and I'm going to press out with that tension kind of into those hands. Okay, so that's going to create that good kind of ab brace. Ideally, I'd be able to talk, breathe, as I still keep that ab brace on. Okay, so obviously I'm gonna squat. Could be squatting pretty heavy. I need to make sure that bracing is still there. The bracing might depend. If I'm goblet squatting, for 10 reps, that might be a different amount of maximal bracing compared to if I'm putting a few wheels up on my back and trying to kind of take that for only a couple reps or a 1 RM. So that might change depending on load. When we look at a bit of progression, first thing we might want to look to do is a bodyweight squat to the box. So you might have somebody that comes in and maybe they haven't squatted before, so then we might look at having a bit of a box there or using a TRX handle, depending, to see kind of if there's a bit of fear there that they're going to fall over. So again, we're going to set up good tripod foot, and then we're going to look at kind of potentially just squatting down to the box and coming back up. Okay, we might use that as a bit of an assessment. Maybe they can't get all the way down there. Maybe there's a mobility issue there in the ankle. So at that point, we might add a little bit of a heel lift underneath. So maybe it's a couple of small plates that are kind of underneath my heels there, which are going to allow me to kind of almost be a bit more forward, which is probably going to allow me to get down in that position a little bit easier. Next, we'd look, we're looking when we're assessing there, we're seeing somebody, we're looking kind of knee position. So ideally, I'm tracking over top of kind of my toes. So as I come down, I'm tracking over my toes. As I come back up, I'm tracking over my toes. If I have that knee kind of caving in, then that's where we might use a bit of a band, where the FMS band, kind of wrap it around, cross-load it to an attachment, so that I'm going to work to drive out into that band, because the band's trying to feed my mistake, and I'm trying to go out and away from that. Okay. Next up in our progression, we'd look to probably use a goblet. So again, I'm going to maybe be loaded up here. Okay, so again, set up my good position, toes slightly turned out, good tripod foot, good ab brace. Okay, not lots of tension. I'm going to come down into my bottom position. Ideally, kind of shin angle is similar to torso angle, and then I'm going to come on back up. Okay, so all the way down in that good position and back up. Okay. Once we've kind of gobleted, we're keeping that loads out in front. That's a bit of that counterbalance, going to help us get in position. Okay, then we might look to go to a bar in a progression, so that it might be kind of like up into a bit of a front squat position. Okay, so I might be looking at front squat. From there, I might look to use the safety bar if I don't have the mobility. It's got to get those hands up. I might look to use the safety squat bar, because there I can kind of hang on to the handles. The load comes slightly out in front, so I don't have to kind of crank to get myself up there. Similar to my back squat, I might have to not crank my hands in. So my safety bar squat might be a good option for my squats. And then, you know, the load's gonna basically has been moving kind of further back behind us. So then I would kind of be from my front squat position, I might be in a high bar position, okay, to a mid position, to a low back position. Okay, so the more the load is going to move backwards, the greater challenge I might have on that good kind of mobility, stability piece to making sure that I'm staying in a good position. And it's going to be a little bit more challenging the further the load goes behind me. When we look at depth, okay, so we get a lot of questions about depth. But when we look at depth, ideally you're going as low as you can kind of maintain that good torso angle. So again, I'm maintaining good kind of torso angle there, good shin angle. If I have a bit of a butt wing from around parallel to below, that's okay. I just don't want that full kind of big tuck under, no control at the bottom. And I might look at, you know, if someone's doing that, I might ask them the next day like how they feel. If they're feeling a bit banged up, then yeah, we're probably going to limit that kind of depth that they're going to. So, you know, I might, again, it's going to be dependent on your client, but I might have a look at how far or how much rounding is happening at the bottom there, and you may stop them just from a risk-reward standpoint. When we look at the squat as well, we have to pay attention to our tempo. So there are times where you may just be going kind of up and down. Maybe you're in a bit of a metcon or you're doing just a certain number of reps. But again, slowing myself on the way down is going to build some good strength, and potentially owning that bottom position is going to build me some strength and mobility in the bottom as well. So what I mean by that is the eccentric part is the downward phase of the movement. So on my way down, so maybe I'm taking 3 seconds to go down. Maybe at some point in my programming, I'm looking to hold this bottom position anywhere from 2 to 5 seconds before I come back up. And that would be my isometric hold in the bottom position. When we look at breathing, again, this might be dependent on load. Okay, so again, good Valsalva breath in, good diaphragmatic breath in, good pressure there. Ideally, I'm going to take that big breath in, create that tension. I'm going to descend, and as I'm coming up, I'm going to use my exhale. But again, that breath may depend, you know, if I'm doing as many reps as I can in a Metcon, my breath may just be with each rep, you know, as I'm trying to kind of maintain while I'm in maybe a little bit more of that aerobic state, versus if I'm going for, you know, 1 RM, I might need that huge kind of breath in, big ab bracing as I go through there, you know, good hold all the way down as I'm coming back out, and then that kind of exhale as I go through that. So guys, hope this helps. You know, hopefully it gives you a few tools to use moving forward in the squat, and maybe clear some things up in terms of, you know, what you should be looking for. Again, the best way to, you know, look at this is do a bit of a self-analysis. So grab your phone, video it up. You know, you can always shoot it. You can always send it to us through our email, and we'll have a look at it for you.